All right, today we are going to work on lesson 2.3, which is subtraction of whole numbers and decimals. And our objective is to review the trade first and partial differences methods of subtraction. So you've been doing trade first or borrowing in math for a number of grades since you've been working on subtraction. But let's go ahead and look at the specific vocabulary associated with subtraction. And this might be something that might be a little bit new. I'm not too concerned that you memorize these words, so you don't have to write it down specifically, okay? So when you're looking at our first little problem there, we have 19 minus 5 equals 4. We may not have known what the different parts of a subtraction problem are. So the 19 actually has a name, and its name, let me see if I can get its name is the minuend, okay, minuend. And the 5 has a name as well. It's the subtrahend, or subtrahend. And the 4, you should already know, is called the difference. Okay? So, in the examples below that, you have if each digit of the minuend is greater than or equal to the digit directly below it, subtract separately in each column. So 93 minus 21, 3 minus 1 is 2, 9 minus 2 is 7, and 6 and 48 hundredths minus 3 and 45 hundredths, you have 8 minus 5 is 3, 4 minus 4 is 0, 6 minus 3 is 3. And then in 54,729 minus 34,026, you have 9 minus 6 is 3, 2 minus 2 is 0, 7 minus 0 is 7, 4 minus 4 is 0, 5 minus 3 is 2. Okay? Okay, in this problem we have 463 minus 275. And for it, we are going to use a method called the trade first, which you should already know. And this should be a bit of review for many of you, okay? But let's set it up like we did yesterday with our partial sums, where we had our different columns. We had our hundreds column. We had our tens column. And we had our ones column, and we did the subtraction that way. So we have 463. 4 goes in the hundreds, 6 goes in the tens, 3 goes in the ones. We had 275, 2 goes in the hundreds, 7 goes in the tens, and 5 goes in the ones. So for our trade first, we can't do 3 minus 5. We need to borrow from our tens, change the tens to a 5, the 6 to a 5, sorry, and we add tens to our ones column. Let me be a little bit clearer. Hold on a second. Let me erase. Okay. And we put, go back to the pen, 13. Okay. So we took 10 out of the tens column and put it in the ones column. So now we can do our subtraction easily. 13 minus 5 equals what? Well, 13 minus 5 is 8. Okay, now we're kind of stuck again in the tens column. We have 5 tens minus 7 tens equals something. Well, we can't do that, so we need to borrow from our hundreds, and we change the 4 to a 3. And the 5 now becomes, we add 100 to the tens column, so we have now essentially 150, but 15. Okay, we have 100. We have 15 tens, which is the same thing as 150 minus 70, or 15 minus 7. So 15 minus 7 is 8. Now we get over to our hundreds column. We have 3 minus 2. Well, we don't have to borrow anything for that. We can just do 3 minus 2 equals 1, and our answer becomes 180. Okay. Aha! Now we're talking about decimals. The whole point of this lesson is really to focus on decimals, is to review multi-digit whole number subtraction, but then apply the same ideas to decimals. So we're going to do trade first with decimals. So let's set up our columns. We have a tens column. Okay. We have a ones column. Okay. Now we also have a tenths column. Okay. And we have a hundredths column. Okay, and then we need to do our subtraction. So we have 32 and 93 hundredths. So we have 30 in the tens column, 2 in the ones column, 9 tenths. So we will actually put the decimal point in the ones because the decimal point goes after the ones place. We have 9 tenths, and we have 3 hundredths. So 32.93, 3 tenths, 2 ones, 9 tenths, and 3 hundredths. Okay. We have 15 and 65 hundredths. So we have 15, so it's 1 10, 5 ones with my decimal point, 6 tenths, and 5 hundredths. Okay. Now, 3 minus 5, well, can't do that, so I have to trade from the tenths place. That becomes an 8. My 3 now becomes a 13. 13 minus 5, I can do that. That is 8. 8 minus 6. Do I need to borrow anything? Nope, I do not. 8 minus 6 is 2. Okay, let me make these lines a little bit more so you see it go into the answer. Okay. 2 minus 5. Okay, well, I can't do that. I need to trade with the tens place, and I get 12 ones. Take 1 10 out of the tens, add it to the ones. So I have 12 ones, so 12 minus 5 is 7. 2 minus 1 is 1. Don't forget our decimal point. Okay, so I have 17 and 28 hundredths. All right, but there's another way to do this called partial differences. It's similar to partial sums in that instead of working from the smallest place value to the largest, like you did in trade first, you work from the largest place value to the smallest. So let's set this up. I have, whoops, let me get my pen. Thank you. I have 4,261 minus 2,637. Okay, so I'm working from the largest place value. So I need to do my to the far left. So I have 4,000 minus 2,000. Okay, so 4,000 minus 2,000 is going to equal 2,000. But because my top number was bigger than my smaller number, my minuend was bigger than my subtrahend, I put a plus next to it. Okay? And I'll explain why in a minute. Next, I have to go to my next place value. So I have 2 and 6. I have 200 minus 600. Well, the way it works with partial differences is you take the bigger number, 600, you subtract the smaller number, 200. And what do I get? 600 minus 200? 400. But because the subtrahend was bigger than the minuend, my 6 was bigger than my 2, I put a minus sign next to it. Now I'm looking at my tens place, 6 and 3. Okay, my minuend is, so I have to, 60 and 30. So 60 minus 30. 60 minus 30 is 30. My minuend is larger than my subtrahend, so I have to put a plus. Okay. Next I have my ones place. I have now 7 minus 1. Okay. My subtrahend is larger than my minuend, so I do 7 minus 1 is 6, and I put a minus sign next to it. Okay. Now, all I have to do is add or subtract as I go. So for the final, it's going to be, I'm going to start with 2,000. I'm going to subtract 400. I'm going to add 30, and I'm going to subtract 6. What do I get? Okay, so 2,000 minus 400 is 1,600. I add 30, I get 1,630. I subtract 6, I get 1,624. And that gives you your partial differences. So it depends on which number is larger, whether you add or subtract. So if in the case of 4 and 2 and 6 and 3, I put the plus sign and I started there, but 2 and 6 and 1 and 7 were, the subtrahend was smaller than the minuend, so I used subtraction symbols right there and there. Let's look at another example. All right, before we get to that other example, let's look at our big idea. So please write this down. Our summary: 4 partial differences. Okay? So let me write that in there. For partial differences. The subtraction is performed from left to right, column by column. So we move from the largest place value to the smallest place value. The smaller number in each column is always subtracted from the larger number. So that's key. Always subtracted. If the bottom number is less than the top number, then the result is added to obtain the final answer. If the bottom number is greater than the top number, then the result is subtracted to obtain the final answer. To find the final answer, the partial differences are added or subtracted. Okay? So pause here to write these down just so you have this in your notebook. Here's our next example, of course, using decimal points. So I have 76 and 38 hundredths minus 39 and 81 hundredths. So when I'm doing my subtraction, I'm writing numbers over here. You don't have to write these on the test or when you do your final work. All you have to do is work this out and then write your answers down in this space. I am going to write numbers over here just as a demonstration so you can see where I get my numbers from and understand what I'm thinking about. So here I have 70 minus 30. So 70 minus 30, and I'm going to get 40. Now I'm going to include the zeros in this case, showing the other place values that are in the problem. When I get to my, whoops, didn't mean to do that. When I get to my final answer, I will, if there are zeros after the last digit, then I'll just take them out. Okay? All right, my next part, I have to do 9 minus 6. Oh, I forgot to do my plus sign up here. 9 minus 6 is 3 and 0 hundredths, tenths and hundredths. But I had the minuend was, the subtrahend was smaller than the minuend, so I get a minus sign. Now I have 8 tenths minus 3 tenths, which will give me 5 tenths. But I subtracted. That 3 is smaller than 8, so I have a subtraction sign. And I have 8 hundredths minus 1 hundredth, which gives me 7 hundredths. But since the minuend is larger than the subtrahend, I get a plus. Now I just have to add all this up, or subtract. I should not have put an add sign there. Okay, because I've got all of them going up and down. So I have 40 minus 3 minus plus 7 hundredths. Let me try to get a bigger decimal point so you can see it. Okay, 40 minus 30, 40 minus 3 is 37, minus 0.5 is 36.5, plus 0.07 is 36.57, or 36 and 57 hundredths. Okay, so that's it. That's all you need to focus on right now. It's looking at each place value, it's subtracting left to the right, and then you have to decide, you have to identify whether each number in each place is, the minuend is larger or smaller than the subtrahend, and that determines what you do right here, and then you just add things up or subtract it down here. Again, this side I don't expect to see you doing. All I did this for was a demonstration of where I get my numbers from and my thinking. This is what I want to see from you when you're doing partial differences. And if you're more comfortable with trade first, I am happy for you to do that. I expect you to find a way to do it that's comfortable for you. Try new things. Always try new things, but find what's comfortable for you. All right, I'll see you in class.